In the last, in the second paragraph on page AyinBase 10. We're in the middle of that. So the principle of this mimer is explaining how it is that even oir, which is chitzonius, which is not really part of the etzem, and it comes out from the etzem only volitionally because he wants to, not because that's a reflection of the etzem. And yet, it qualifies with the term to be called tzurah atzmis, a tzurah that defines the etzem itself. And we discussed this all the way up to what's called odom kadmon. We discussed the odom kadmon. That odom kadmon are two terms that are essentially contradictory. Because Odom, by definition, is a creation. It's a composite of 10 sphirot, essentially what Odom stands for. Therefore, it's a creation. Kadmon, the word kadmon, again, I'm repeating this because we may lose the finer point in this. Kadmon does not mean first. First means rishon. Kadmon means that which precedes any activity, any creation at all. That was that which does not need to be created. It's meant kadmon. And atzmis is called kadmon l'chol hakdumim. Here we say odom kadmon. How is odom kadmon? How can odom be a kadmon? Odom is a creation. And the explanation to that is that yes, indeed, this Odom is a creation, but this creation was conceived from within the kadmon itself, from atzmus. Even though atzmus, as we said in the mimer, we discussed that there's no necessity for giluyim at all, for expression of anything. Yet it is called kadmon, in the sense that when atzmus decided to be mizgala, this is how it would mizgala. This is what's called the first gilu, the first message. And that qualifies it as kadmon. That if atzmus should be mizgala, it would be mizgala primarily in this fashion. Why would be mizgala in this fashion? Because this is, in terms of gilu, this is how atzmus is reflected. As we discussed the other day, and so forth. And now we came back to explain the initial starting point of this mimer. By Sorry it says Major Shon, Reshim Shon, 127 years, and each denomination is mentioned separately with the word year, because 120 and 7 each has a specific meaning, a specific message. 100, that refers to the Kesser. Because 100 means that there is 10 spheres, each sphere combined, a conjugate of 10, which means the completion the totality of the sphirot. And that is in Kesed, which is the Mokir which is Chitzen Kesed, which is Mokir Atzilus. And then there's a subtle thing over here, so that's why I'm going to start from the line in the second paragraph. In the line begins with ukmaymar and ukmaymar. 6 lines from the beginning of that paragraph. The principle that the Rebbe is explaining over here, as we're going to go inside, is there are 10 spheres. This is the way the spheres as they are nisgale in Atzilus. 10 spheres constitute a whole structure. This whole structure comes from a source that is whole in and of itself, not by complete structure, but that is whole by essence, not by compositive. And yet, its wholeness is such that if it should be nisgale, it would be nisgale in a complete structure of 10 spheres. This is the principle of the Keser. So even though the Keser expresses the Chitzonius, there are 10 spheres, then 100 spheres, 100, composed of 100 to a complete union. The reason it's complete is because it's a source in something that is one in the first place. That is an essential truth that has no composition. Therefore, when it comes out in composition, it comes out in a complete composition. The mashal, the simplest mashal for this that we can readily relate to this principle, which is the principle of the whole maimon essentially, is in our common reference to a table. The way the table came to be, we have to understand. It was not that we found something that stands and holds up a board, and therefore, it's a useful utility for a person. That's not the way it came here about it. It was conceptualized in the human being at the finest level. Because, as mentioned many times, a table represents the malchus element of the person. This is why a person sits in front of a table no matter what. In that concept, there are no legs and there's no board. There is a principle. If we should explain this principle on a human level, the principle is that he is being served, supported at all times. He is sitting like we said. A table represents malchus. In the Mishkan, there was a table. In the Mishkan, a table. It's just called Keser Malchus. Then, from that initial malchus sense, when it comes in actual practice, so to speak, when this malchus is revealed in the world, it assumes a whole form, many different details. So even though it is now composed of many details, and that's how it's enabled to be in the world, but we must understand that its essence is that which is conceptualized deep down in the essence of the person.
Right.
And therefore, ultimately, that is what it represents. To the extent, here's the point. Somebody is not muted the phone, please mute it. To the extent that, here in our world, when we're going to eat, we can eat any which way. We can even eat standing up, we can eat walking around. And yet, it's imperative from a simple human respect that one sits at a table. Even though at that point, practically speaking, it does not serve him anything. He doesn't need a table to eat. But that is representative of his stature, and it's appropriate that when he eats, he should eat as a human being. And to eat like a human being he has to have a table, sit at a table. So the table, bechitzonius, in a practical thing, representative that which its origin. This is why this is what Odom kadmon. It is Odom. It is a real complete creation, but it's kadmon. It's representative of that, of its original conception. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the end of the line that I pointed out, 6 lines from the beginning of this paragraph. Being that the keser incorporates both madreges. What are the two madreges? The pnimius hakeser and the chitzonius hakeser. Atik and narich. We explained when we learned it last time that the word atik means remote. Arich means elongated, big. And these two terms have many ways of interpreting, of explaining it. But from our point, it means atik means this is something which is remote from creation, from spheros. It is a unique source, but it's not in the Metzius. Arich means that this already has the formulation of the spheros, but arich in an elongated in a
Arich in Hebrew it's long.
Yeah, arich means long. In a greater measure, so to speak. That's what arich and zeir ampin. Arich ampin and zeir ampin. Zeir ampin, this is the way it is in Atzilus, and arich is the way it is in Keser.
Keser is higher than Atzilus.
Keser
is more down from Atzilus.
No, higher. Keser is the source of Atzilus.
So arich means longer. Longer means what? It's more also remote.
It's above. It's a sphirot of Atzilus in an expanded manner, the greater manner, the way they are in their source. Oh boy, I thought we evacuated. Okay. All right. Being that the keser includes both of these madregas, which is atik and arik, which means that in the keser itself The Atik element is Meir, the Arich element. The point in this, as we explained before, that even though Arich already has spheres, but in these spheres is sensed how they are not just spheres of a composite nature, but they're spheres coming from a single reality.
Just the word composite is something contained. Composite.
Composed. Composite means
Contained.
no. Composite means that's put together from several pieces.
Okay. So it was composite versus. So it was composite versus
Versus a single thing.
Single.
Koilim. Atik is Meir in the Arich. Arich means that there's a schizoid like yesterday. Perhaps we should again stop for a moment, and even though this was many times pointed out, to understand what the meaning of 10 spheres are. This is the total structure. Again, we go back to our table. Anything in human life would be a proper motion. The table is very common, very easy to see it. We said a table is actually conceptualized way up in the nefesh. So how does it acquire all of these pieces, all of these parts? The answer is that this concept in the nefesh has to be translated in a manner that it can exist in the physical world. In order to exist in the physical world, it has to go through all of these 10 levels. What are the 10 levels? First, there is the moichid, there is the intellect, starting from chokhmah. Chokhmah is the concept itself as revealed from the nefesh. Then chokhmah is further revealed, identified by Bina, that this Ayin of a table, the concept, actually has details. In order for it to be in actuality, it has details. What are the details? There is the table in the human being. Let's go back a moment. The inyan from Malchus in the human being is one part of the nefesh. To express the inyan Malchus has to be expressed externally to the person. And if it's expressed internally to the person, then if it's expressed externally, then you have to be able to see the inyan Malchus from an external perspective, from an external view. How do you see an external view? This is what chokhmah is. As we explained many times. I hope you have with me. Chokhmah is correspondent to sight instead of hearing. What's sight? Sight is an interesting thing that we discuss all the time. Sight is you are standing outside of the thing that you're viewing.
What?
You're standing outside of what you're looking at. And yet, you see the whole thing at a glance. And you see it because of its reality. Not by identifying individual pieces that you see. And yet, in that reality is everything that's they're in. If you look in, if I said looking from outside, into the room, you see everything at once, at a glance. And everything fits in perfectly. This is the chokhmah. In other words, Chochmah is that which is able to translate the initial nefesh truth from an external perspective.
Is it what you're saying that the Chochmah sees things like they are in the nefesh one, like they are one? We just finished saying that the Malchus is a part of the human soul, right? It's one with the soul. And Chochmah see it as such?
Well, yes, but no.
Oh.
Because if it sees it as one, then it wouldn't help for Bina. It sees how everything is contained within one. That's what Chochmah is.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, that provides for Bina to be able to derive from it all the pieces. So, this is the whole process of 10 sphirot, to be able to translate, transposition the truth of the nefesh back into an actual existence in a person's life in the world. The first point is chokhmah, to be able to see this concept as from outside, and then it gets further deciphered and identified until you create an entity which is totally separate from the person, and yet separate from the person to the point that it stands independently. As long as it's in his concept, it exists in his mind. But when you build it from wood and sticks, then it's not in his mind anymore. Then it's a separate entity. You create something that's completely separate from the person, and yet it's fully representative of the person. This is the principle of 10 sphirot. Because it starts from Chochmah, and from there to Bina, and all the way down to Malchus. To the extent I just said, when a person eats in this world, even though eating on the table has nothing to do with each other, the proper way for him to eat is at the table. It's fully represented by human being. So this is what we say, that going back to the source of the 10 sphirot, the reason that it's possible for Chochmah to draw from the source and then create a whole presence is because in the source also there are the 10 sphirot. But in the source, the 10 sphirot are completely completely illuminated by the essence of the nefesh. If I have you with me, I'll say one more. Atik and Narik, right? The essence of the nefesh. Why does the nefesh of Adam have 10 spheres? Why does the nefesh of Adam have the sphere of Malchus? Malchus means to be remote, removed from any external effects. That's what a melech is. A melech is above the materials of the world, and yet he is in the world. This inyan, that a person is above world. Let's define world. Now that we've come to this point, let's define world. World is such an entity that does not have an essential presence. Everything in the world has to have support. Like a table, to stand, it has to have legs that to hold it up. It's not going to stand because I want the board to be there. Everything in the world has to be supported. A melech, he's above that. The expression in the Gemara is a melech. How does a melech accomplish anything?
By decree.
What?
By decree.
By decree. Omar Malki, Okar Tura. A melech just says it and it happens. Even though when it happens, you have to still move the mountain. But the melech, this is done. This is how he perceives it. And this is how the Nefesh HaOdom. Nefesh HaOdom is above world. It's godly. And this is why in the Nefesh HaOdom there is all of the 10 spheres included, including Malchus. And the Nefesh really is above any need for support. It's an essence, it's an atzmis, as we said many times, the essence high. So that all the spheres in the Nefesh are included in the reality of the Nefesh. This is the pshat that there is an atik and arich. From the Nefesh come all the spheres, all the koiches. But all the koiches in the Nefesh are contained within the truth of the Nefesh. And this is the principle of, like I said over here, that Keser, this is all a mashal, that Keser contains, Keser contains, includes both madrigas. Both madrigas means atik and arich. Atik is the way it is representative of etzem, and arich is the way it comes in gilui. Umeya b'chinas atik b'chinas arich. And therefore, in truth, in the Keser, the atik element shines through the arich. So that in the arich you could see that why does it have all these spheres? Because of the truth of the atzem itself, as we explained in the Alkin. For this reason, gam gabe meyo. This is why that even when the pasuk says meyo means 100. 100 means representative of the spheres of Keser, as we said. But even there, when you know Meya, there are many spheres. Ne'emar Shon Loshen Yochid. It says Shon Loshen Yochid, singular form. Not Shonim, but Shon. Why? It is due to the fact that even though there is 100, but this 100 is illuminated by the by the truth of the atik of the single truth. The Hainu Commission is Boileyil, and that is exactly as we explained before, B'chinas Ak, speaking about Adam Kadmon. He said, as we explained in the introduction today, Adam Kadmon, how can it be Adam Kadmon? We said nevertheless that this is that we cannot that it's still called Kadmon even though it's Adam. Lihiyoisoi, being that he is, which means that Adam Kadmon is B'tzelem Elokim. He is representative of B'tzelem Elokim. This Adam is in the form of Elokim. Which Elokim? Not in the Seder Ishtasu, but Shechoshav Kaviyocha Machshavazu. The one who thought, who conceptualized this whole thought. That's what I thought kadmon. Because kadmon means prior to creation. Which means it refers to Adam, Shechoshav, the one who thought this machshava, not the machshava as it's initially conceptualized, but as this machshava is contained, comes from the one who made the thought, who thought this machshava. Alkein, Shem Haklal, or Haklal b'chinas Adam b'hashva, or Shom. There the klal is b'chinas Ardus, is in total unity, b'hashva and equality. Everything is included in one thing. That's when it is an Adam Kadmon. K'meikei b'chinas Arich, similarly the Inin of Arich. Lefi shemeir shom b'chinas Atik, because Atin Arich shines the principle of Atik. As we explained, Atik is representative of the Etzem. Arich is how it is in Yisgala. Alki nemer shona loshen yochid. That's when we say shona loshen yochid, even though shona means that there is a composite of 100 spheres, but it's all one because it's completely united as one. V'neidem Masha Kosuv, Hamach, I don't know what the Mach is for the moment. The Ak, that Ak, who ki erech arich l'gabe ho'ilams. He says Ak is like arich. And you say in the case that there is two madrigas, Atik and Arich. Arich is the way the sphirot are already being defined. And Ak is like is a symbol of relationship between that Adam Kadmon is like the Arich for the worlds. In other words, this is where the sphirot, Adam Kadmon, this is where the sphirot are at this higher level as they come from the Yetzer. This is how
the spheres is coming down. Arich is mean more developed, so the Ak is mean more how it's being developed. It's coming down.
What? Ak.
It's Erech Arich. Arich is means coming
Kerichat,
down.
yeah, that's what Ak Odom Kad.
Odom Kad.
The Asrim, this is Meir Shalom. Meir refers to Keser. The Asrim, and then 20. Hey, Bechinas Chochmo Ubina. Asrim refers to the Chochmo Ubina, the two upper spheres of Chochmo Ubina. Shekol Achas Kolo Me'eser. But each one is contained of 10, that's why it's 20. Because all the spheres are actually rooted in Chochmah Bina. So Esrim is when Chochmah Bina is at that level where it includes all 10 spheres. Because that in Chochmah Bina also there is the sense of Ein Sof Baruch. Of Ein Sof. This is why by Esrim, by 20 also it says Loshen Yochid. Because there also there is the sense of of Ein Sof.
Even in Bina?
Even in Bina. Even in Bina. Because what is Bina? Bina gets the Inyan, the Ha'ora of Ein Sof from Chochmah. Bina is that it is recognizes what Chochmah is. And Chochmah is relates to Ein Sof. So even though this is, I said there is already in our motion from the table. When you put the table together and you put a board and you put legs, it seems like you're putting the legs because the legs are going to hold up the board. You don't even think in terms of the concept of the table at all. You're building it as something that will stand in the world. In Bina, in Chochmah, this table is a single concept. In Bina, it assumes already certain form, but the form is there because of the single concept, not in order to make it stand in the world. That's the difference between when it comes later. Bina takes everything from the Chochmah. It identifies the details that are contained in the Chochmah, even though it identifies the details, but these details in the Bina are based on the Chochmah, not based on Mitzias in the world. How are you going to make this stand? No, that's not the question in Bina. What is it? What is this? What does it contain? What does it consist in?
And when does it lose the Oya and Sof?
What?
If in Bina is still the Oya and Sof, when does it lose this Oya and Sof? I mean,
from Bina then comes into Midas. Midas is when the Midas, in Das and from Midas, the point of Das and Midas is that there, the aim is how do you make it happen, not what the truth is. In Bina is still to identify the truth, and in Das and in Midas it's how do you make it happen. This is where it becomes a mitzvah.
Wasn't here at the beginning of the conversation, but by Bina, would it already seem like it's dealing with the legs? And if it's dealing with the legs.
So I explained that even though you're dealing with the legs, but you're not dealing with the legs in order to accommodate the world. You're dealing with the legs to define what the table is. It's not chokhmah.
A table that's not in the world needs legs?
Okay. A table that's not in the world that needs legs. But a table at any level has to stand on its own. Therefore, it inherently has legs, not in order to make it happen, but by definition of a table.
In order to make it happen, but by definition, in order to not in order to accommodate the fact that it's within the world and in gravity, but by definition.
Let's you have it. You can take a board, put it on your legs, on your lap, and use it as a table. That's not the concept of a table. Because it doesn't really serve you. You're serving yourself. A table has to serve you. Therefore, inherently has to have the ability to be independent. How it comes out to be independent, that comes out much later. But the concept of independence is there. That's Chokhmah and Bina identifies it.
And Bina says this independence plays out as legs.
For simplicity, yes, but it plays out as legs not in order to make it stand in the world, but in order to be independent.
Yeah,
that's what the concept of Chokhmah is. There is a service for the person. If the person is not serving himself, he's being supported, he's being served. That's what I'm saying. All right. So in Esrim, which is refers to Chokhmah Bina, there is still the oil Ein Sof, and that's why over there it's also called Shon Lashon Yochid, because all the 10 sphirot that are the composition of Chokhmah Bina are actually pointing to one and single entity, element, not to 10 individual spheres, as we explained just now. Gabe Sheva, but when it first goes further down, Sheva, 7, Shei Bechinas Hamidos, which is the Midas estimate. The Sham Hoyike Bechinas is Chalkos Chokhmah Chesed Gvura. This is where there's a principle of this of identifying individually Chesed and Gvura. Nemar Shonim Lashon Rabim. By 7 it says Shonim Lashon Rabim, because then each sphira is a separate entity. Ukmaymar shekosuv mizeh be'oirech api maymar hazeh raposik zeh. Maymar hazeh on this posuk is discusses this union at length. Ma shemechalek the fact that he divides it in 3 separate sections, Meyo and Esrim and Sheva, it is due to the fact that in general Yesh Beho'oyer Gimu Madregis. In the oil there are 3 Madregis in general. Even though Bichlolus overall in general the principle of the oil is oil atzmi, as we said, an oil that was representing of Etzel. And And yet, in this, there are three madrigas. What are the three madrigas? Who Ayin Sof Shilifnei Atzimut, that which is before the tzimtzum. The Gilui Hakav, and then the Kav She'achar HaTzimtzum. Beyond the technical terms, the Kav is that which come. The tzimtzum created a, so to speak, a mokim pond, a place for the world, and then there is the Kav that drew from the Ayin Sof into the mokim pond. And this is the way the Gilui of Ayin Sof, the way it is after the tzimtzum. Beis madrigas. Therein there are two madrigas. One in the Kav there are two madrigas. Bechinas atzmus hakav lifnei atzilus, v'haoras hakav shebatzilus. What are the two madrigas in the Kav? The etzem of the Kav, the way it is before the atzilus, and then the haor of the Kav, the way it comes in atzilus, ukmaymar yisboyer, which is still due to be explained. Okay, we'll go through this a little bit fast, so because we are still going to be learning this more in detail. V'neida da atzilus hu neged zayin tachtenes di arich. Atzilus correspond to the zayin tachtenes, the seven lower madrigas of arich. Lower madrigas means that in the madrigas of midos rather than moichin. The avo means chochma bin of atzilus malbishim nizreyas de arich. They embrace nizreyas the arms of arich. Zehu Ayin sheva shonim, and this is the 7 years. As we said, 7 is the bechlolos or bechinas or atzilus. This 7 refers to the atzilus. Ki yodua the shom hu iken hakelim. As is known that in the 7, this is where the Ikenat and the Kelim, the principle of Kelim, begins from Atzilus. The Oires Boim Bechinas is Chalkus, and therefore, and the Oires in the Kelim are subdivided individually. Even though the initial identification of Kelim is higher than Atzilus, it's called Akudim. Akudim. Akudim means all the oilas are contained in one keli. Harei shom hu bechinas keli echad. But there it is one keli. Shgam ha-keli bechinas achdus, which means the keli itself has an element of unity. And in Atzilus, there are already individual keli. Ulamayla me'atzilus u'bechinas gimel rishenes shehein esri u'meya. Above atzilus, in Keser is this gimel rishenes shehein esri. This gimel rishenes mean the 3 first spherots, which is chochma and bina, and that represents 20, as we said before. U'meya. And then 100 who b'derachal bechinas or Ayin Sof shilifnei atzimtzum. This is the Ayin Sof just before atzimtzum. So the 3 madrigas that we have is the Sheva, the way it is, nimshach from the tzimtzum into atzilus, and then there is esrim. This is the way the Indian these spheres are still in Mechin, which also has Achdus, and then 100. This is the Ayin Sof Lifnei Atzimtzum. Zehu Ayiyuch Hayisona Meyashona, and this is the pshat in the pasuk. Hayisona were Meyashona, Vesem Shona, Sheva Shona. Sora he bechinas Malchus. Sora is in your Malchus. V'chai Sora heim bechinas ha'eres v'giluim bechinas Ayin Sof Baruch. Chai Sora, Chai, the life of Sora, means that's the Amdatka, the Gilui from Ayin Sof Baruch. V'derech klal bechinas atzmis. This Ayin Sof is Oir atzmis. V'yesh bozeh gimel madriges kanal. And in this order there are three madriges. Megabe meya ve'esim them shomer loshen yochi. Okay, this we will just conclude.
What's the last line you didn't translate?
The Gabe Meya ve'esrim, and when he talks about 100 and 20, it says Shon Loshen Yochid, because therein there is already the union from any son. We try to get in as much as possible into the details, but not everything warrants it. Not everything is, we're not up to everything. Okay, this is the end of this mimer. I think this mimer was really quite, took us around all over the place. All right, so beginning of the year, we started a new year. We started in Farbrengen yesterday by Forrester, and we made it to Shir in time. And that's a good haskalah. We have a cloud, the way you set yourself up in Pasha, in Beis, that's the way the whole year goes. It doesn't go automatically. It doesn't go automatically. You still have to steer it. But nevertheless, it sets the pace. All right, have a great day and a great year.
Yeah.